Spasibas. Thank you very much for inviting me here to Russia. This is my first time coming to Russia. So I'm standing between this lecture and your sleeping later in the evening. Dobry Feature. So I will talk about digitally transforming a nation to Industry 4.0. Since there is no moderator here, so I will try to introduce myself. It's a bit longer, but I can just read it for you. I got my undergraduate and master in computer science from Faculty of Computer Science, Universitas Indonesia. For those of you who still do not know Indonesia, if you look at the globe behind my back, it's centrally located in the globe. So we have 17,500 islands. We have more than 500 local languages. So luckily we have what we call national language. We call it Bahasa Indonesia. If you know Bali, Bali is actually located in Indonesia. People say that Bali is the island of paradise. If you like snorkeling and diving, then Indonesia is the must destination for you. I got my PhD from Curtin University of Technology, Australia. And I also, besides my academic degree, I also got several international certification like CISA, Certified Information Systems Auditor. You will need it if you want to do professional IT audit. I also got certification on Information Security Manager. You will need it if you want to develop the information security governance in your company. I also got ISO 27001 lead auditor, that's on information security management system. I'm also the member of PANDI, which is actually .id. So here you have .ru. In Indonesia, we have .id, and I'm also the member of that organization. And I'm also the vice chair for Internet Society, Jakarta chapter. Jakarta is our capital. And I'm also the Academic Advisory Council of APIDE, Asia Pacific Institute for Digital Economy, based in Tokyo, together with Keio University. And I'm also the member of DIODE, the Development Implications of Digital Economy Strategic Research Network, located at the University of Manchester, UK. So in the next 90 minutes, I will share with you how to digitally transform a nation. So I will share with you what happened in Indonesia. I will share with you what happened in Philippines. I will share with you in some of the ASEAN countries, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and then a bit about Russian digital economy. If 90 minutes is not enough, those are my emails, and I'm also on Facebook, so feel free to contact me. Okay, so I will split my speech into 4 sections. The first one, we will talk about the digital future. And then the second one, we will talk about the digital economy. And then the third one, we will talk about the digital competency and digital literacy. And the last one, we will talk about digital divide. Now, in yesterday or a couple of days ago, we have this lecture, Bojis. And he talked about future trends as reported by Ala, the beautiful lady with the white shirt over there, on the Facebook group. I'm sure that you have already known our Facebook group, so feel free to join and write anything from this program. He mentioned that there are 6 future trends. The first one is artificial intelligence, and then the second one is financial technology, fintech. The third one is blockchain technologies, which is currently being disputed in many countries, even in Indonesia. The government still cannot endorse the use of Bitcoin, which is actually developed on top of blockchain for the payment. And then the fourth one is O2O business, online to offline, things that you can buy online, but then you can get the product offline, or vice versa. And then genetic engineering, and the last one is new production. So consistently with that, if we look at the development of AI in Russia, you can see that Russia is also very strong on the AI development, from the predictive analysis, big data, chatbots, computer vision, intelligent data analysis, and so on. You have so many startups, you have so many investors, and you also have tech hubs. And if we divide the map into the technology and the industry, you have this one. So here we can say that artificial intelligence is very strong in Russia, but what about other fields in digital economy? Because AI is not the only one. Other than AI, in US, Stanford University is one of the leading universities who also do research on the autonomous car. Okay, so people predict that in the next 5 years, autonomous car will also be a future trend of the information technology. In fact, if you visit Silicon Valley in the US, or in Singapore, or in some region in Japan, it's already there to serve people in a secluded region, in a special region. But using this technology in a country like Indonesia or in a country like India will be very challenging, where actually traffic jam is there, and people sometimes, the signage lamp indicates to the right, but then in fact, they go to the left. So that kind of thing happen in Indonesia or India. Here, I'm sure we can use that to travel from Vladivostok airport coming here, because the traffic is actually not so dense like in Jakarta or in Bangkok and so on. So luckily, last year I went to Stanford University, so they also conducting research not only for sport car, but also the family car and also for small truck and so on. So we are actually entering what we call the fourth industrial revolution, Industry 4.0. The first one is actually in 1700s, where actually that's the word of mechanization, steam power, and then the second industrial revolution is on mass production, assembly line, electrical energy. And then in 1970s, 1980s, we have the computer. So people talk about the automation, people talk about the computerization, people talk about computer language and so on. And now we are entering Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. I picked this up because it seems that in the last 2-3 months, every speakers, every expert talk about this. So IoT, cloud computing, IoT, the one that you wear on your chest and to track you, track your location, monitor your heart rate, all those kind of things actually belong to the fourth industrial revolution. Now some expert, if I look up at the Facebook report of this initiative, mentioned that in the future there will be several job loss because of the IT. However, because of the internet, if you look at the result of the survey done by McKinsey, for every one job loss, actually internet or digital economy creates 2.6 new jobs. Yes, we don't have the toll gate officer anymore, because nowadays if you want to enter toll gate, then you just put your card, touch and go, or maybe using RFID, smart tag, and so on. But certain professions are actually created by the digital economy. So as an example, during my era, when we asked by our parents, what do we want to do after we graduate, then most of the answer will be whether we work in a telecommunication company, whether we work in a banking company, or whether we work in an oil company, and so on, where actually they pay you very well. But nowadays, when I ask my students what do they want to be after they graduate, the answer is actually surprising. Some of them said that I don't want to work for anyone, so I'll try to build startup. I'm already got 2 friends. One will become the CEO, one will become the CEO, CFO, and then I will become the CTO, and so on. Another student answered that he or she wants to be a YouTuber. When you upload your video on YouTube and then it got hit very well, then you will earn some money. I never teach English to my little daughter. She's still in primary school, but what surprisingly is that she has already got her own channel on YouTube. When I click her video, and then she mentioned, "Hi guys, welcome to my video." And I never teach her how to use English. So that's one thing of the positive effects of the digital economy, that our children can speak other languages very well just by watching on the internet. Another profession is celebgram, celebrity on Instagram. So what they do is actually just taking pictures and then go to every places, and then when there is any product, cooperate with her, then the company will pay her or him around $1,000 just to advertise the product. Those are jobs that are actually created by the digital economy. So what happened now in 2018, for every minute, we have 38 million WhatsApp messages. I use WhatsApp intensively to communicate with the committee. We have 266,000 hours watch of Netflix. We have 3.7 million Google search. We have 4.3 million video viewed on YouTube, and so on. So terminology like big data now is very relevant, and we talked about big data in the previous session, how to use big data for education. Now last year, I also went to Johns Hopkins University. The author mentioned that during 1980s to 1990s, we have what we call PCH. Some of you might have ever used WordStar, like Microsoft Word, but to copy and paste, you might remember how many buttons that we need to key in, Control KB, Control KK, Control KY, just to do cut and paste using WordStar. The famous game at that time, not Overwatch, not GTA, but it is Digger, using a CGA monitor. And then the second development, 1990 to 2000, we have what we call information age. We have the Wi-Fi, we have the 2G, 3G, we have the GPS, we have the mobile phone. And then 2000 to 2010, we were entering what we call smartphone age, with the development of smartphone, with the development of the APIs, application programming interface. Doesn't matter whether you use REST or whether you use JSON, but some of the e-commerce now actually rely on the use of API, application programming interface. And then we also have the social media. And then 2010 to 2020, we have what we call digitization age, when we have the IoT, Internet of Things. Currently, we have about 2 billion users of the Internet worldwide. In the next 5 years, Professor Kil Namchon from Korea predicts that we will have 5 million users of the Internet. But not all of those users are human. Some of them are actually, or many of them are actually sensors, the weather sensors, agriculture sensors, and other type of sensors, your body sensors, and so on. And people call all those sensors as IoT, Internet of Things. Now, the author predict that in 2020s to the future, we will enter what we call biocognitive age. That's the era when we have the e-health, when we have the telemedicine, when we have the telerobotics, and so on and so forth. So if you become a startup, the biocognitive age might worth to look at. And it will rely also not only on biotechnology, not only on bioinformatics, but also mostly on the artificial intelligence, especially machine learning. Now that's according to Johns Hopkins University, based in the Washington, D.C., US. Another trend, if you look at Internet Society, they also published the future of the digital world. They mentioned that there are 6 drivers of change in the future. The first one is the Internet economy. But still, the role of government is very important. I will tell you what happened in Indonesia later with the government. But government is also one of the important factors to accelerate the development of the startup. The third one is the internet and the physical world, including autonomous car. I haven't mentioned the usage of drone to deliver your product from one place to another place, and also artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, already discussed by Bill Woodcock a couple of days ago, and then network standards and interoperability. Next thing, according to UN, United Nations, since I'm also the focal point of United Nations Asia Pacific Center for ICT for Development in Indonesia, they predict that in the future we have 7 trends. The first one is 5G. The second one is blockchain. If you know Bitcoin or Ethereum, those are actually built on top of blockchain. But in the future, blockchain can be used for many other things, like when you do general election or when you want to make sure that the payment of certain funds, aid funds, is actually received by the correct people. The third one is 3D printing. Last week, I watched on the internet that there was somebody who can build his house just using the 3D printer. And then assistive technologies, AI and machine learning, IoT, mobile payments. I can see during breakfast, lunch, and dinner, some of the students here just simply put their smartphone to pay the bills, and then also digital healthcare. Now that's according to UN. According to Diplo, these are the future trends. The first one is something that nowadays people talk about, the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, ratified by European Union, cybersecurity, digital economy, digital rules, courts. So as an example, now we have what we call right to be forgotten. So you can just simply say to Google, if let's say you want Google to wipe out all your details on the internet. We also have the AI, cryptocurrencies, content policy. In China, you will not be able to access Facebook. In Indonesia, you will not be able to access negative contents such as pornography, online gambling, hate speech, fake news. You can't access those sites in Indonesia. But surprisingly, if you visit Philippines, they don't have any content policy. So you can freely access anything. Pornography you can access in Philippines, but not in Indonesia. Although, as the expert of technology, some of you might think that, well, what about the VPN? Yes, you can still skip the firewall by using the VPN. And then another thing is encryption, net neutrality, online identities, jurisdiction, and also data protection. Now that's the first part, the digital future. Now the question is whether we are ready to get the maximum benefit of the digital future. And one of the positive effects of the digital future is that we can use the digital future to develop our economy by using what we call digital economy. I also question myself, why does the committee invite me from Indonesia, a developing country, coming to Russia to share with you guys? But if you look at these figures, I can say that Indonesia will be the biggest market for digital economy in the future. Why do I say the biggest market of digital economy in Indonesia, the biggest market of digital economy in the world? Let's look at this figure. The most populated country is China. Now the question is, will it be easy for you to enter China market? They have what they call the Great Firewall. They have Alibaba. They have Jack Ma. They have Alipay, and so on. So it's not easy for us to enter China market. I'm sure when you open, if you need to open a company or startup over there, then they will require you to have a local presence over there. Now let's see the next country, India. Is it easy for us to enter India market? with so many states and so on. And they also have their own problems with their own country. The third one, United States, US. US is actually currently so busy invading other countries with the digital economy, with all the Facebook, with all the Google, etc. And you know how we rely on Google for the Google Map, Gmail, and so on. And the fourth one, my country, Indonesia, where actually it is not so difficult to enter Indonesian market. We always try to invite investors from foreign countries. Telegram is there, Google is there, Facebook is there, and other startups all around the world. Tencent is there, Alibaba is there. So now actually most of the investors look at Indonesia as the next biggest market in the world for the digital economy. And we also have Russia as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's number 9. The 9th most populated country in the world. Now, let's see other facts. You might think you cannot just rely on the population of your country, but let's see this figure. This is actually the report from PricewaterhouseCoopers. Mentioned about the purchasing power parity. In 2014, Russia is number 6, my country, Indonesia, is number 9. But it is predicted that in 2030, Indonesia will be number 5, Russia number 7, on purchasing power parity. It's not about speeding up, it's not about competing from one country with another country, but what I want to say is that please look Indonesia as also one of your market if you want to develop a global startup, if you want to be a global player. And in 2050, Indonesia will rank number 4 after China, India, United States. Russia, number 8. That's just a figure. Now, this is what happens in Indonesia. This is the digital profile of Indonesia. We have 265 million people, and we have 50% of internet penetration. So we have 132 million of internet users. Social media is actually, Indonesia is actually one of the heaven of the social media user. We have 130 million user of Facebook. We have 177 millions of mobile users, which means that if you want to develop applications based on mobile apps or smartphones, it is also okay to enter Indonesian market. Now, not only the figures of the population, our president, his name is Joko Widodo, when he opened an initiative in 2015, this is his handwriting. Now is the era of the creative economy. So I just simply translated to you. This is the era of the creative economy, and the creative economy must be the backbone of the Indonesian economy. That's what he said. But not only he says about the importance of the creative economy, our government also developed what we call the national policy on digital economy. What I want to say here is that the development of the digital economy in Indonesia not just rely on startups, not just rely on founders, but the government also got a role here. So the government also accelerate the development of the digital economy. They have what we call the economic policy, where, sorry it's in Bahasa Indonesia, but I will just translate it to you. We will focus on 7 things. The first one is that we want to make the funding access easier. We want to give incentive on taxation. We want to give a consumer protection for the online transaction. And we want to increase the capacity of human resource. And we want to increase the national logistic system. So if let's say you have the startup in Moscow, how can your products arrive in Vladivostok in certain number of days? And then we also need to accelerate the development of the communication infrastructure, and the last one is the cyber economy. Now, in order to support those 7 initiatives, we have a national initiative, what we call, we want to develop 1,000 new national startups. We want to develop 1,000 technopreneurs. So I'm sure this initiative, part of the goal is actually also to increase the development of the startup in the Russian Federation. So same as in my country, we also have what we call National Initiative 1,000 Technopreneurs. So this is our vision. So every time I speak like this, please ask yourself whether the Russian Federation has already got their vision of the digital economy. In Indonesia, it is like this. So we have the digital economy vision that by 2020, we want to have a game-changing strategic plan. We will focus on the small, medium enterprise. We want to increase their participation in national economic building. And we will develop what we call e-commerce roadmap that will involve 8 ministries with 31 strategic initiatives. By 2020, we want to have 310 billion US dollars e-commerce transaction. Now the question is, are you going to just watch all those development, or are you going to be one of the players in Indonesia? We want to develop a friendly policies for foreign direct investment. We want to facilitate greater access to funding. And then we also want to develop attractive and easier exit strategy by deepening capital market liquidity. And we want to have several initiatives like 1,000 digital technopreneurs national. We want to develop safe harbor regulations. And we not only we said all of this, not only we mention all of this vision, but we have already started to implement all those vision. So as an example, this is the national initiative 1,000 startup digital, 1,000 digital startup. So you can check on their website 1000startupdigital.id, and we invite all the mentors from one city to other cities across Indonesia, and we teach them how to develop a startup, and we always invite all those best speakers in startup world to teach them on how to build a sustainable startup. Same as this initiative where you have all those great speakers coming here to teach you certain things about the information technology world. Then the government also got what we call Presidential Decree number 74, 2017. It's still last year, where actually the president mentioned about the e-commerce roadmap for the first 2 years, 2017 to 2018. In this presidential decree, we will focus on 7 things: funding, taxation, consumer protection, education, human resource, infrastructure, logistics, and also cybersecurity. And especially for the cybersecurity, we also have come up with a ministerial decree on information security that every government agencies in Indonesia, they must get certification on ISO 27001. Same as in Japan. So by doing that, we want to make sure that every government agencies in Indonesia, they have their plan on how to tackle or how to handle the cybersecurity. Not only that, we also develop 5 regulations on the e-commerce. Why I mention about this? Because in one of the report about the startup development in Russia, the author also mentioned the lack of the regulation in Russia to boost or to increase the development of the startup in the Russian Federation. This is actually, this figure mention the current status of the e-commerce law or all regulations related to e-commerce in ASEAN countries. in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. And if you look at Indonesia, we have already got our regulation on electronic transaction. We have already got our regulation on privacy. We have already got our regulations on cybercrime. Consumer protection, we still need to develop it. Content regulation is there. Domain names .id is also being regulated. And if you look at the Philippines, they put cross on content regulation, which means that you can access anything in the Philippines. Singapore has already completed all the regulations. Malaysia has already completed all the regulations. So these figures also shows you, if you want to enter ASEAN markets, this is the figure. We still didn't know what happened with Laos. We still didn't know what happened with Cambodia. We still didn't know what happened with Myanmar or Timor-Leste or other ASEAN countries. According to the Global Connectivity Index, in their report, the title is Harnessing the Power of Connectivity, where actually they also calculate the Global Connectivity Index. Here is the result. It's too small, but I've already marked it. This one, the green one, is Indonesia. So in this report, they still consider Indonesia as starters. So the first one is frontrunners, the second category is adapters, and the third one is starters. And my country, Indonesia, is still ranked number 40 with score 33. Now look at Russia. Here it is. So they consider your country as adapters. We rank number 26 with score 45, which is actually your country has a great potential for digital economy and soon can be a front runner. While my country, Indonesia, we are still as the starters in the digital economy. Now what happened with Indonesia in the future is that we will continue to develop 4G coverage. We will continue to expand the mobile broadband subscription. Yes, we still do not have fiber optic from the most west to the most east part of Indonesia, but wherever you go in Indonesia, you can still get the signal for the smartphone. Whether it is a 2G, 3G, or 4G, you will always get the signal. And we want to increase the mobile broadband subscription, and we want to increase the smartphone penetration in Indonesia. So what happened in Indonesia is that we have several startups. I'll give you the numbers after this, but ranging from several categories, from classified ads to marketplace. Tokopedia is one of the unicorn is in Indonesia. Bukalapak is also one of the unicorn in Indonesia. Unicorn is actually a startup valued over $1 billion US dollars, not 1 million, $1 billion US dollars. So it's not so easy to be a unicorn. This is for the online retail. We have so plenty. But at the moment, we have 4 unicorns in Indonesia. The first one is Tokopedia, a famous marketplace in Indonesia for e-commerce. The next one is Bukalapak, created by graduates from Bandung Institute of Technology. Tokopedia is created by somebody graduates from Bina Nusantara University. So most of those founders and co-founders are actually coming from the university. Now the question is whether universities in the Russian Federation has already close relation to the startup community, because university is actually the place if you want to get great talents. Next, Traveloka. This you will use it if you want to buy airline tickets in Indonesia, very cheap compared to if let's say you buy the ticket from the official airline. And then the last one, which is actually the biggest one, is Gojek. It's very famous. It's for ride sharing, not only for motorcycle taxi, but also for car and so on and so forth. Gojek is so famous that it has actually become the role model for startup developments in Africa and also in certain parts in Asian countries. What happened is that Gojek nowadays not only open for ride-sharing applications, but this is the screenshot of Gojek, and then I'll just explain it to you one by one. The first one, motorcycle. You can do ride-sharing. And if you live in Jakarta, where the traffic jam is there, then going by motorbike is one of the good choice to travel very fast from one point to another point. And we also have taxi, ride-sharing, or also cars. And then we also have GoFood. If you want to buy any food, any kind of food, hundreds of thousands of restaurants registered to Gojek. You can just simply click it, and then by paying 50 cents US dollars, then the food will be delivered to your place. And then they also open GoSend if you want to send a document. If you want to top up your phone, we have GoPulsa. And if you want to pay your bills, we have GoBills. If you want to do shopping, you can choose the GoShop facility. Or if you want to buy from big supermarket, you can use GoMart. If you want to do moving your things from your house to other places and you need a larger truck, we have GoBox. If you feel very tired and you want to do massage, you can use GoMassage. Just click it, and then the masher will come to your place. And if you want to clean your house, you just click Go Clean, and then the cleaner will come to your place. You just need to pay it for 1 hour, 2 hours, and so on. And if you have a wedding invitation and there is no time to go to the beautician, you can ask the beautician to come to your place by using GoGlam. If you want to watch a movie, they have GoTick. If something happened with your car or with your motorbike, you can just ask the mechanics to come to your place with the Go Auto. And if you want to buy any medicine or consult with the doctor, you can use the GoMed. So basically, the online value proposition of Gojek is actually an object for every need. It becomes your personal assistance. So this initiative or this startup, Gojek, has actually become a role model. In fact, the latest development, Uber, will not be there anymore in ASEAN countries. So in Singapore or in Malaysia or in the Philippines, you can only get one startup on ride-sharing applications, Grab, which is actually from Malaysia. Uber is no longer there, and then Gojek is being asked to present or to open branch in all those countries in ASEAN. So what happened in the Philippines? 2 years ago, I was invited to Manila to talk about digital economy. In the Philippines, you can get food from foodpanda.ph. If you want to go from one place to another place and you don't want to get the regular taxi, you can use Grab. Grab is actually made in Malaysia. And digital economy is actually there, so I can see many people also play Pokemon with all those so many Pokestops being lured by the players. But what happened in Philippines is that they still do not have strong local player. So the startup that they use, the application that they use if they want to buy airline ticket is actually Traveloka, which is actually made in Indonesia. And the application that they use for the marketplace is actually OLX, which is also made in Indonesia. So I mentioned to them that you need to develop the local players made in the Philippines for the startup development in the Philippines. However, having said the good development or the marvelous development of the digital economy in Indonesia, we also have this problem. So this is the negative effects of having a good digital economy in certain country. So on 22nd of March 2016, Tuesday, all those regular offline taxis complained to the government. They simply just park all their taxi on the road like that, and then they march to the government office. If there is any taxi getting some passengers, then they will destroy the taxi. And they also stop the tollway and stop all those taxis with the passengers and ask the passengers to get off the taxi. That's what happened on that day, simply because they wanted the government to stop the illegal online taxi. Well, whether it is illegal or not, it's questionable, but the digital economy is there to disrupt the business. So nowadays, if the taxi provider cannot provide a good public transportation for the people, then the people will choose the online transportation, where you don't have to do bargain with a fixed meter and it's very cheap compared to the regular taxi. Now let's see the figures of the startup development in Russia and in Indonesia. I got this from startupranking.com. So if you are actually a startup player, this site you must have visited this site regularly. So Russia, what a big country, from Europe to Asia. You have 538 startups at the moment. So I just accessed this last night, so it's recent one. So this is the figures. Russia with 538 number of startups. The best one is United States with 369 startups. You know Silicon Valley. And then the next one is India, while Indonesia is actually there. We have 1,846 startups. So the cake is still so big in Russia for you guys to open your own startup. And looking at the figures of the internet penetration in Russia, you also got 70% of internet penetration. So you don't have a digital divide problem like me in Indonesia, which I will talk later in the last session of this talk. Now this is the top 10 startup in Russia. The first one is Telegram. The second one is TradingView. Cube or Coop? C-O-U-B. IV.ru, Liters.ru, EasyWit, Lingualeo, Waves Platform, Ostrovok.ru, and Netology. Those are the top 10 startups in Russia. However, if you look at the report published by E.T. Kearney, the title of the report is Digital Entrepreneurship in Russia. This is the good thing of Russia, is that every year you always develop 1,000 new startups. So 1,000 new startups are launched each year. Out of 1,000, 500 of them are actually promising projects. And 500 of them, half of it are low quality projects. Out of 500, 50 got substantial funding from venture capitalists, usually based on Moscow or St. Petersburg. 50 get smaller amounts from family, friends, business angels, or self-financing. We also call this bootstrapping. And 5 to 10 will go abroad to other countries. 50 will be sustainable as smaller companies out of those numbers, and only 10 will scale into star companies. So I do hope that out of 1,000 participants in this initiative, minimum there will be 10 of them who will become the star of the startups in the Russian Federation. So here are the challenges based on that report. In Russia, the absence of integrations of Russian companies in the global economy. So same as Indonesia, we don't have many players from Russia investing to Indonesia. And then the next challenge is that the retention and recruitment of IT professionals. Here I heard that the salary of IT professionals is only $37,000 per year or per annum, while in the US they pay for the IT professionals 118K. So if you are a very good professional IT developer, then it will be a temptation to go abroad, to visit US, and then success over there, build your own startup. Other than that, managerial skills of the graduates, you also have what we call digital divide problems, because two-thirds of internet users in Russia, actually they live in small and highly dispersed towns and villages. That's the end of the second part. Now let's talk the third part. We call digital competency and digital literacy. We have discussed the digital future, so you can see yourself in the future, which field will you get deeper, which field will your business on, and then we also have talked about digital economy in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in ASEAN, and also in Russia. But at the end, the users or the consumers of your applications are the people. So having a very good sophisticated artificial intelligence application will be nothing if you don't have the member, if you don't have the subscriber, if you don't have anybody who will use your application. Which is why it is also important for a nation to develop the digital literacy and digital competency in his or her country. So when you have a digital competency, that means that you understand how the technology is used. When you use the digital technology, then we call it digital usage, and then the last one is digital transformation, whether you are able to alter your business process to implement technology changes. So as an example, our government has already made a regulation that every government procurements, 100% of all those procurements must be done electronically using what we call e-procurement. It's a very big jump for our country, but the result of that e-procurement is that we increase the transparency, we increase the accountability of the government, we open the market to everyone in Indonesia, not in certain cities, but now it's open for the whole area of Indonesia. So if you look at this figure, you have the digital expertise since you are invited to this event. Before you register to this initiative, you must have already got what we call digital competence, but still we need to develop our people to have what we call digital literacy. And at the bottom of it, to have a digital literacy, then we need to build their own digital awareness. So as an example, in Indonesia, you will not be able to register your children to a public school if you don't know how to use the internet. Because to register your children to the public school, then the registration is actually done through the internet. In Indonesia, you will not be able to register as a civil servant, because to register as a civil servant, you need to use the internet. In Indonesia, you will not be able to enter the university because every university in Indonesia uses the internet for the registration. So if there is any people in Indonesia, they cannot register their children just because they don't know how to use the internet, then it's my fault as well. Which is why we need to develop the digital literacy in our country, same as in the Russian Federation. When we have developed their digital literacy, then they will be capable to differentiate whether it is a fake news or not, whether it is a hate speech or not. So we need to teach the people to get the complete fact, because if they got the incomplete fact, just like in this figure, if you just got half of the picture, it will make a different perception on certain things. Why I say about this? Because this year we have what we call local government election, but next year in Indonesia we will have what we call general election. In the US we have the Cambridge Analytica case, same as Indonesia. Nowadays the social media is actually flooded by all those positive and negative news about certain candidates. Yes, the positive effects of social media, we can use it for networking. So I can communicate to you when you become my friends on Facebook. We can use it for self-branding. Certainly after this, I will put my pictures on the Facebook, saying that I'm actually currently in Vladivostok talking to you guys about the digital economy. It's part of the self-branding. We can also use the social media for social practice, so that we can be a more kind person to others. We can also use the social media for the information dissemination. But on the other hand, the negative effects of digital illiteracy is that we have hate speech on the internet. So we need to educate the people so that they can differentiate whether it's fake news or not. We have a case of privacy. We have a case of persecution just because of the fake news, and then some people has already destroyed a house or a car of other people simply because of fake news. Because of the digital illiteracy, we can have child pornography. So we also need to educate our children how to use positively the internet. I become friends of all social media accounts of my children. Instagram, Line, Facebook, WhatsApp. And it's so tired to follow all of their social media accounts. And although people call me an IT expert, but still they actually smarter than me, because yes, I followed their first account, but immediately after I followed their first account, they created their second account and their third account on the social media. So that's what happened when we deal with the millennial generation. So because of that, we need to have a comprehensive approach. We involve the law enforcement. We involve also more than 70 agencies or associations. We have what we call Digital Literacy National Initiative. We even develop our theme songs. It is a theme song on how to use positively the social media. So if I translate that into English, then the lyric is like this. Just stop the spreading of the hate news on the internet. We better to spread loves for Indonesia. Love and peace for Indonesia. So we have developed 3 versions of songs, 30 seconds, 1 minute songs, and also 3-minute song. This one is only 30 seconds, the shortest one. And we broadcast this on the internet. We always use this for socialization of the positive usage of the internet, because this is the best way when you want to deal with the millennial generation. A classroom like this only works for Generation X, only works for baby boomers, but it won't work for millennial generations or Z generations, because they really love technology and they want to use all the technology. We also developed 16 books, not just a textbook, it is actually a comic, so that the youth can learn from the comics. You know, they love anime, they love comics instead of reading novels and etc. So we also developed 16 online books on the positive usage of the internet. We also built what we call ICT volunteer that will go from one place to another place to spread the positive usage of the internet. We call what we call digital literacy education. We have what we call Internet Sehat. If I translate it to English, it is actually how to use the internet positively, and so on and so forth. That's the digital literacy. But then, what about the capability or the competence on top of the digital literacy? As an example, after we have hundreds of startups, after we have thousands of websites on the internet, what about the cybersecurity? The one that Bill Woodcock already mentioned a couple of days ago, the importance of cybersecurity. What happened in Indonesia is that we have a national initiative. We call it 10,000 gladiators on cybersecurity. So by having this initiative, we invite 10,000 IT professional developers, IT professionals, and then we train them about the cybersecurity. Not only to hardening a server, not only how to set a firewall, but also the capability to defend the cyber attacks. Other than that, we also have a national initiative. We call it 1 million, juta is million in Bahasa Indonesia, 1 million domain free. So if you become a startup and if you want to develop a website, just simply register to this website and then you will get your domain name for free. .id in this case. So this is actually some initiative that we use to build our own digital competence. Now what about the government? As the IT professionals, I'm sure you can take care of yourself, but we also need to educate the government to use the digital economy, or what we call e-government. So this is the report from Waseda University, 2017. They always do this every year, reporting the e-government ranking in many countries. So this is the figure. For the Asia Pacific countries, the best one is Singapore. The next one is Japan, and then New Zealand. And then the fourth one is South Korea, Taiwan, Australia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Macau, and then Indonesia. Russia is not there because it is Asia Pacific countries. But if we look at this table, ranking of big population countries with a population bigger than 100 million, congratulations, you are number 3. After USA, after Japan. So Russia has actually have already done greatly on developing the digital government here with score 58.449. While my country ranked number 4, score 58.032. Now let's see next year whether Russia become number 2, whether Russia become number 1, or become number 5 after Indonesia, and so on and so forth. Okay, so why? Because in Indonesia, since last year, we have a national initiative, what we call 100 smart cities. So we go from one city to another city, we go from one region to another region, and we educate the mayor, the head of the local government, how to develop e-government, how to develop smart city in their region. And let's see this result after 2018, because it is actually a 2 years initiative. But by having this initiative, if you go to a local government in Indonesia, many of them has already got command center like this, where actually the head of the local government can simply sit there in the command center and monitor all the KPIs, key performance indicators, monitor all the maps, monitor all the sensors to evaluate and to direct the e-government development in their city. In a city called Surabaya, they also cooperate with the police to deal with the traffic jam. So if there is any traffic jam, they can easily monitor from the CCTV, and then they can do something with the traffic lights. As an example, make the green light longer so that the traffic jam will not be there anymore. And for the head of the local governments, they also develop a dashboard like this. Dashboard actually looks easy, but behind that, you need to have a great integration of one agencies to other agencies. And we know that ego sectoralism, and we know that this is my data, not your data, and we know that coordination is not easy. Now, related to the digital competence, since I'm coming from the university, we also need to develop what we call 21st century learning. So we also need to develop our curriculum related to the IT development, not only on key subjects like English, world languages, arts, mathematics, economics, science, geography, history, government, and also civics. But also, we also need to educate them what we call 21st century themes. We need to educate our students so that they have what we call global awareness. What happened in China, what happened in the US, what happened with France, what happened with Croatia. Luckily the World Cup is already over, so now we can come back to our normal life. I was hoping that Russia can become the champion of the World Cup actually. Financial, economic, business and entrepreneur literacy, civic literacy, health literacy, environmental literacy. We also need to educate them learning and innovation skills. We need to develop their creativity and innovation. We need to develop their critical thinking. We need to teach them how to do communication. We need to teach them how to collaborate with each other. We also need to develop their information literacy, their media literacy, ICT literacy. We also need to develop their life and career skills, flexibility, adaptability, leadership, social, cross-cultural skills, initiative, self-direction, and so on and so forth. But the question is, will the number of subjects enough to teach all of those things to our students? I don't think 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day will be enough to teach them all these aspects. So part of them is actually becomes our responsibility to teach our children about the 21st century skills. Now the last part. It's already 1 hour and 5 minutes. The last part is digital divide. When you develop digital competence and digital literacy, you will have this problem, what we call digital divide. This is what happened in Indonesia. This is the last figure. So we have 265 million of people, but half of them still not connected to the internet. Imagine if when you have half of your people is actually not connected to the internet, and they are actually your potential buyer. What happened in the Russian Federation, out of 144 millions of people in Russia, 110 millions of them are actually connected to the internet. So you still have 24% of your people are not being connected to the internet. They still don't know Mail.ru. They still don't know how to use Yandex. And they are actually your potential buyers. So actually you still have other 34 millions of your potential users. It's there simply because they still not being your customers or users simply because they are actually currently not connected to the internet. Same as in Indonesia. So this is Indonesia. We have 5 big islands. The most west part is Sumatra, famous for their Sumatran tigers. In the middle we have Borneo, famous for orangutan. And then the east part we have Papua. That's the place for Freeport, the largest gold mining. And we have the small one in the south part. That's the island where I live, Java. Now the fact in Indonesia is that out of 50% of the internet users in Indonesia, 58% of them are actually located in Java. So if the east part of Indonesia, they only have their portion are only 2.49%. So we still need to do something to overcome, to reduce the gap of the digital divide here. Out of all those internet users in Indonesia, 89% of them, they just use it for chatting. WhatsApp maybe. And then 87%, they just use it for the social media. 74%, they do it for search engine, looking pictures, downloading video, downloading pictures, and so on. Facebook usage, we have 130 millions of Facebook users in Indonesia. So if you look into Indonesia, this is the infrastructure of the submarine cable in Indonesia a couple of years ago. Sumatra is connected, Borneo is connected, or Kalimantan is connected, Java is connected, Sulawesi is connected, but the east part, Papua, is still not being connected by the submarine cable. If you don't have submarine cable, then you won't have a fixed broadband connection. Yes, we do have mobile broadband connection, but fixed or wired cable, wired broadband connection is still not there. But what happened is that by 2020, we will have like this. So all those islands in Indonesia will be connected. If this project finishes, then we will have broadband connection from the east part to the west part of Indonesia, 3 Mbps minimum. When you have 3 Mbps, then you can play YouTube. If you have less than that, then you will be lagging. It's not going to be smooth. When we have 3 Mbps, then I can teach from Jakarta using the online education. I will have students at in the east part of Indonesia. That's what we call online learning. However, in some regions where the internet is still not there yet, where actually they don't have fixed wired broadband connection, then we have this initiative. We develop a small truck. This small truck going from one village to another village, going from one rural area to another rural area. When you open that small truck, at the back you will have 40-inch LCD screen or LED screen now. And if you open the right part of the car or of the truck or the left part, then you will have 3 plus 3, 6 computers. And this small truck goes from one school to another school. Now the question is whether you have this kind of initiative to spread the usage of the internet from one village to another village in Russia. In certain places in Indonesia, you can't use small truck like this. You need to use a 4-wheel drive. We developed this one. In some roads, the road is actually not big enough for a small truck to enter. We have this one. It's a motorcycle. When you open the back part of the motorcycle, then you will have 4 computers inside, going from one school to another school, from one village to another village. In some regions in Indonesia, there are some cities where actually they have more rivers compared to road. There is one city in south of Kalimantan or south of Borneo. The name of the city is Banjarmasin. And we call the city as the city of 1,000 rivers. Not because they have 1,000 rivers, but because they have so many rivers. So for that region, we have this one. It's a boat going from one river to another river, from one village to another village. TIK means ICT. So when you enter that boat, it's going to be like this. We have 5 plus 5, right part and the left part, 10 computers inside. It goes from one village to another village, goes from one rural area to another rural area, and we open it up for the students to learn how to use the internet so that they will have what we call digital literacy. Once they have the digital literacy, then they will be your potential customers or your potential buyers or your potential users for your startup. So for all this development, it is always a cooperation between the government, academicians like me. So I also use this initiative as part of my research. We have published a paper on ICT acceptance among fishermen. We have published a paper on ICT acceptance among farmers because they have different business model. And we also cooperate with the association and also with startups to build the digital literacy in our country. So before I end my presentation, the difference between your country and my country is actually only one color, which is the blue one. So together, let us make a better digital future. Spasiba for inviting me to share what happens in Asia to you, and hope that we can meet again in the future. If we cannot meet offline, then we can still continue our friendship online using the Facebook, Twitter, etc. Spasiba, thank you very much.